Alright, I'm going to do a little walk and talk, sort of market update of the store and of the games in general. And as I walk through the store, I'll show you, some of the product, and we'll talk about that, those product lines in the order that we get to them. So, starting up here is some Pokemon, and as you can see, very little Stellar Crown left. We ordered a bunch, and it was already pre-ordered by the time it got here, so it's gone. So this is kind of where we're at with Pokemon. Obviously, we're a very tiny store, so we don't have a lot of stuff on shelves, but we do order it in, and people come in that have pre-ordered it, and yeah, so a lot of it doesn't even go on the shelf. It just goes directly to the person who ordered it. You know what? Actually, what I like is let's see, in here, I do like the binders that Pokemon puts out. Sorry. And over here, some other cooler little binders. This one, obviously, iconic. Not as good quality as some of the other ones, but, pretty good. And they often come with their own sleeves. Then we move in here to Wakana, which is near the Pokemon, for obvious reasons. And as you can see, and this isn't all in the back room we got even more starter decks. Stop buying the card sleeves because no one really cares about the card sleeves. And we got some of the playmats still, and then some packs here. So let's start first with Pokemon, because that's the big thing that people are talking about, because Stellar Crown came out and people, I guess, went wild over it. Really, the thing that happened recently was in a Costco, and 151 was restocked, I guess, but at a very low price point in these special, something similar to like this kind of thing, but more robust. I guess it had some tins and also had some promos, and also it had 151 card packs in them. And then in one Costco, at least, people just basically ripped them off the skid and created this big mess. Nobody fought over it. We're not at that point yet. We'll get there. We'll get there. But anyway, Stellar Crown popped off, and it started with Stellar Crown, Surging Sparks, and things started to turn around for Pokemon after Twilight Masquerade, and I made a couple videos where I talked about how I like Twilight Masquerade. I did a box opening, and then I don't know what I did with the video, so that's lost the time. But this, the Twilight Masquerade, after, like, it came out in March or April, and it still sat on our shelves and probably lots of people's shelves, and no one really cared that much. And then, they suddenly people realized that it was great, and it just started disappearing. People came into our store asking about it, and we had several boxes, and now we have 0 boxes, and this is the number of packs we have. There's some other things that have the packs in them, like these tins here, and these eraser packs. And I actually purchased from 2 different distributors those things. I meant to only really order one set of each, and ended up getting double the amount. And those sat forever, and no one really wanted them. I mean, I was fine with getting double the amount because, back to school, I thought, people might want something kind of cool for that, but no, they didn't. Not until Twilight Masquerade started popping off, and then they really wanted those things. So now they've, we'll open them and take out the packs and throw them in a little dispenser, but they sometimes people just, they want the package itself, but for the most part, they just want the packs. And that's fine. That's a lot of Pokemon is like that, especially with these things. They a lot of people break these down and sell the packs and all the little things individually, and there's what people call an arbitrage opportunity often in those things, but that'll start to change too. But for now, it seems like there is. And then, so because of everyone suddenly deciding Twilight Masquerade was good, and Scarlet and Violet in general was not trash, because they spent most of 2023 and 2024 starting with Scarlet and Violet base set and going through all of them up until Twilight Masquerade, which was was set 6 or 7. And then after a few months, Twilight Masquerade was good. Now people are going back and getting the older Scarlet and Violet because it's good now, I guess. Anyway, so then Surging Sparks, it was announced, but no one went crazy about it until around the time that people were picking up Twilight Masquerade, and then suddenly everybody needed it. And stores had already basically put in their pre-orders for that, based on what had happened for the rest of the year. So what stores got is what they were going to get anyway, based on it's sitting on a shelf for months and nobody buying any of it. But now it's flying off the shelves and people can't get enough of it. So prices have gone up. We pre-ordered it at whatever the regular markup would have been for any of the other Scarlet and Violet sets, which is, I don't know, somewhere between, like 10-15%. It's fine. It's good to move the product. I can maybe up my allocations if we're going to be in a nice hot market for Pokemon. That's great. So then, to go back to Lorcana here, Ursula's Return is the only box we have left, but this, we had first chapter and Floodborn and Into the Inklands, and then Ursula's, and then what was it, Shimmering Skies? Was that the latest set? So, first chapter, when it came in, immediately sold, right? People really wanted it. And so we didn't end up having any first chapter on the shelves. And then I upped the order for Floodborn, and then that didn't really sell that well. And it stayed for quite a bit. Some people bought a couple boxes, but then it just seemed like stale inventory. And then Into the Inklands, people were excited about, but then it became stale inventory. And then Ursula's, there was very little excitement, and it was immediately stale inventory. And then Shimmering Skies, people were a little bit more excited, but recently some people, around the same time as Twilight Masquerade, or just like a week before, a couple guys came in and bought all the extra boxes that I had other than that one Ursula's box, and so now it's not stale on the shelf anymore, it's gone. And so I was thinking of, up until that point, I was thinking of lowering the amount of Lorcana I brought in, because there's no one really coming into the store to play Lorcana, as much as sometimes when people come in to buy it, I invite them, to come in and bring their friends in to play and stuff like that. But most people that buy this product, any of these products, they don't come into stores to play. They play at home, or they're collectors, or they're investors, or whatever, right? So eventually we'll get Lorcana players, and it'll just take some time. But what I was saying was reducing the amount of Lorcana I brought in because there isn't enough of a customer base for it yet. I guess I kind of changed my mind once those guys bought out the remaining boxes, and I kept the normal amount of Lorcana order just to see what happens. But if the next set is the same, then I don't really feel the need to bring in as much Lorcana. If it's just always going to sit on the shelves for quite a while. I mean, quite a while meaning 6 months to a year. Because it's very different than Pokemon was also doing that, but Pokemon now is not going to be doing that. And then we go to Magic, which is sort of the breadwinner, and it's the breadwinner of any store, even in the period where there was a downturn and not many people were buying stuff. It still moved quicker than any other product. The other ones sat on the shelf for months, even Pokemon. But Magic refreshed itself, meaning that people were continually buying stuff, and very little of it stayed on the shelf. Now, when I brought in older sets, like say a Brothers War or Crimson Vow or something like that, that might take a while, or especially Infinity, people would only buy one pack of that maybe every couple of weeks. They weren't that interested in it. But the new sets, so this is comparable to bringing in the new Pokemon, the new Lorcana. So, you brought in Wilds of Eldraine, and most of it sold in that first week, and then the rest of it sold by the end of the month, right? And then I had to order some more. Same thing, Ixalan, even faster. And then Ravnica Remastered, I actually lowered the amount that I ordered, but it kind of stalled out on the shelf. I ordered more of it because I like it. And this is I'm just talking right now about the draft boxes, set boxes, and then later play boxes. And Karlov Manor, it was not that great, but I guess in my store it was actually pretty good. Not pretty good, just it moved about the same as the other sets, maybe a little bit less than Wilds of Eldraine, but enough to replenish my cash reserve, I guess. Now the collector boxes are a different thing. I have, there's more in storage, but we have some Foundations in there, a couple Duskmourn, some Assassin's Creed, and Karlov Manor. And in the back is I think Outlaws of Thunder Junction, some more Karlov Manor, some more Assassin's Creed, and a Dungeons and Dragons one, right? But all the other sets throughout the year, so basically Commander Masters, even though Commander Masters, set boxes and draft boxes didn't do so well, Commander Masters collector boxes disappeared. Well, there were only 4 packs in them, and the two of, I'd say half of what I ordered sold in the first month or whatever, and then maybe the last pack sold by Christmas. So those collector boxes didn't do as well as the later ones, because Wilds of Eldraine, it 80% of it sold within a couple weeks to a month of the collector boxes, and then the remainder by Christmas. And then Ixalan, basically collector boosters disappeared by Christmas, and that came out just before Christmas. And then Karlov Manor, those collector boosters stuck around a lot longer. And then we got to in the meantime there was Doctor Who, ordered very little of it. Those disappeared by Christmas. And then Fallout, it immediately gone, right? And even the commander decks and stuff like that. And then we got to Outlaws of Thunder Junction. About half of the collector boxes gone in the first week. And like I said, I have a couple. Because by that point I've been ordering a lot more collector boosters. By Karlov Manor, basically, I just started ordering about 3 times more than I had ordered when I first opened the store, because we were doing quite well. And then, Modern Horizons 3. It was expensive, and I didn't want to get in the same situations I got with Commander Masters, so I lowered the amount of Modern Horizons 3 I brought in, and it was gone in a week. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. And then Assassin's Creed, it kind of stalled out, not to the level of Karlov Manor. I sold, about a third of it, but I'm glad to keep the rest of it, because I think that it's kind of a sleeper. And then Bloomburrow came, and within a week, all of Bloomburrow was gone. People really loved that set, and we brought in more, and it disappears, so it's good. Duskmourn, almost as good as Bloomburrow, and now Foundations remains to be seen. People seem to like it, and before, nobody was really that interested in it, but it's not. I'm okay with that, because it seemed to me to be a product made specifically for people who just got into Magic or are thinking of getting into Magic, and it's good that it stays on shelves. So I'm okay with it not quickly moving. I like keeping the Foundations around, and I ordered as much as I thought I needed, and I'll be able to, for the play boxes at least, bring in more. So, and hopefully the starter set. So hopefully those are evergreen products. The starter sets, the starter collection would be nice for it to be evergreen, but definitely the starter set. So that's Lorcana, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering. Now to move to Flesh and Blood, that's a little bit different. We're a small town, so there's not many people maybe playing Flesh and Blood in the area, right? And maybe some towns over, there might be a better Flesh and Blood, like a store that runs regular events. I try to. And there are a few guys that do come in. And Miss Vale was the first set in which, basically someone came in and bought Flesh and Blood. And then Rosetta, even more so. But I brought in all these boxes, and they basically sat here for a year before anyone came in and bought any. So it has been stale, at least here. But I think also it isn't at the height it was in the pandemic, but it's starting to climb back up, just like the other card games. I think it depends on what on sort of what the market feels about it, and maybe when there's more people talking about Flesh and Blood, there's more people playing it, and maybe at that point we'll get more players, and then the product will start to move. I'm glad to play it, and of course I have to always talk about my favorite, which is HeroClix, and it's in a holding pattern and has been since at least the beginning of the pandemic. If not, it was already maybe a bit in decline back then. But I don't have any worry that it's going to disappear, because it stood the test of time, in my opinion. It managed to survive 2008 when the company that was making it was near bankruptcy, and then they sold it to WizKids, and WizKids now makes it, and WizKids has done good stuff with it. But there's maybe they've overproduced it, and maybe also people moved on to other things, and then maybe also the height of superhero movies has kind of we peaked in around Endgame, and people are less excited about superhero movies, and therefore the knock-on effects to HeroClix, that changes things. So I'm hoping that we'll get a little resurgence of HeroClix another time. I mean, these things come in waves, so hopefully people will get into HeroClix. I made the video why you should be playing HeroClix, and you can check that out. And you should at least try it. It just like any of the other games, once it hooks you, you'll be spending a lot of money on it in the way that you spend a lot of money on the card games, but less than you would spend in a bar or the movie theater or any other hobby. So it just depends on what you want to play, and you can play HeroClix at the casual level, just like you can play any of these games at the casual level. You don't need to buy a whole lot of stuff. It's fun even if you don't. But I look forward to HeroClix rising again. So let's see, what do we got here? So this is board games, and it was very important to me to bring a lot of board games because I'm a board gamer. But turns out board games are not hot, or at one point maybe they were, but they're not. Maybe it's just because of card games, they sell so quickly and you move through the product so quickly and recover your investment very quickly, that board games seem like they are dead product in comparison. But it's probably they're more like any other product in any other retail environment, other than food, because food obviously sells very quickly. But I'm sure that, maybe cosmetics sell quicker than this, but I would say that if you're running a retail store and you're selling any other types of things, board games probably sell at the same rate as anything else, as long as you've got enough variety. And I like to have on here sort of a what's what of board games. So when someone comes into the store, I can explain, what board game suits them well, because I know quite a bit about every board game, even if I haven't played them, because I talk a lot about board games with my friends. And so the board game thing is not quite as lucrative as the card games. And if I had just opened a store with board games, I don't know if the store would have survived. I doubt it. I mean, you'd need a lot of cash reserves to continually run a store where almost nothing, and you need a much larger space to have a much wider variety. So then enough things would sell that would cover your costs. But I don't have that much space here, so a smaller space is more conducive to card games, and I think maybe that's obvious to a lot of people. Then we have Warhammer, which is sort of, if card games didn't exist, this would be the big seller, at least in this time period. And you know, it also goes through. Well, I mean, I think actually it's a more static interest, like a generally up, curve that's going up, and less volatility because it's not. While it's collectible, it's not randomized. So everything in the box is what you get, and then you can assemble it however you want and create your whatever format you're playing in. You create your armies, and then you get individual, little squads or hero characters, and add them to that. And then there's the books, and of course the paints and the paint brushes, and it's all a nice little economy unto itself. And it does a steady business, and it's very good as an offset to maybe the volatility of card games. And I don't, like, if you're going to be opening a store, I don't recommend ignoring card games or ignoring Warhammer. I think you need to have both. They are sort of a hedge against each other. And then if you want board games, if you understand board games, and you want, you want to bring in that kind of clientele, then by all means, but don't go overboard in the board games at first, because that's kind of what I did. I sunk a lot of money into the board games that I could have sunk into Magic while it was still continually going, or I could have put it into Warhammer, and both of those would have been a better place to put it based on how quickly they moved off the shelf, and then I could have slowly built up the board game reserves, I guess, if that's what they are. So this is sort of a market update for what things are doing. Pokemon is popping off huge, and it's probably going to be back to that era when people were fighting in Walmarts over it. Magic is steadily increasing, doing pretty great. Lorcana, hopefully, it's going to recover from their overprinting of first chapter, which I think was an overprinting. Board games, don't know what they're going to do. Warhammer, I think it's just going to be on a steady trajectory, and it can be reliable. HeroClix, who knows what will happen with HeroClix, but I'll always carry it and always invite people in to come and play it. And Magic the Gathering, I think I already said, it's pretty steady. Another product, if you're not aware, are these commander decks. So they're sort of a similar, I guess they're similar to Warhammer, and there are Warhammer decks actually up here, right? So you can get Warhammer decks, and but I'm saying that the commander decks are sort of a different product category to the rest of Magic. I think they are more like Warhammer in that there's just a steady sales of them, and they also stay in stock longer, and you can keep your shelves stocked with commander decks, which brings people in. It's the booster packs that are, I guess, a more volatile thing, but they not in comparison to Pokemon or Lorcana or Flesh and Blood. So, like I was saying, you need to have Warhammer if you're opening a store. You need to have card games if you're opening a store. The other things are based on your own personal, not personal preference, but you understand what you think that you can sell somebody, meaning that you understand it and you can explain to someone why they'd want to buy it, right? If you don't have a basic knowledge of it and a little bit of a passion for it, sorry, then it becomes a little bit more difficult to sell it. Oh, actually, let's take a look at this, the Foundation Beginner's Box. It's pretty great. It's nice and hefty, and I was surprised at the contents in it. Like, it's got, in addition to having the 2 instant play decks, and the Learn to Play guide, which is why I got it. the Learn to Play guide especially, because it has a nice walkthrough of how to play the game and really gets people, slowly brings them into the concepts of the game. And the playmats are helpful, but I didn't know it was going to have 8 jumpstart decks, and at such a low price point, right? Hopefully, other stores aren't jacking up the price on it. That they're, I think Wizards of the Coast specifically. There's also spin down dice in it. But Wizards of the Coast specifically sold these cheap to distributors and then stores, so that we would then pass those savings on to the consumer to then get people into it. So hopefully all of us realize this and realize we want to get new people into the game, and that we're not going to jack up prices on these things. I don't hear anybody doing that. I doubt anyone is. I'm just saying that hopefully that is what it is. Then there's this, the Foundation Starter Collection. This is sort of a mixture of the land bases, or what are they called? Basically, you can buy these little boxes that have a ton of lands when you're first starting, because not a lot of lands come out of packs. Like, it's 1 land a pack, sometimes 2, depending on what kind of pack you're buying. But to make decks, you need a lot more lands. So this has that, and then also some packs, and then 350 cards, which are sort of the basis of a collection that, if you've been in the game long enough, you kind of have these cards, but this kind of basically gives you at least those cards so that you can easily create decks. And then, like I said, the packs and a storage box. So these are kind of somewhere between a bundle, a land station, maybe lots of theme decks and some packs, and then these cool counters, which this is the first time I think there's been a product that had those kinds of counters, which are neat little counters. And again, I hope that that stores don't overcharge for these things, because it's very helpful to new players. And I hope that existing players who have their collections already don't, right now at least, lay off buying them so that new players can get them. But you can do what you want, actually. If you feel like you deserve it and that a new player doesn't, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. I'm just saying that until we find out whether they're going to be restocked, I prefer them going to new customers, because that's helpful to stores and what they were meant to do, and it's helpful for the whole marketplace. But once they're restocked, then it's free for all, right? And hopefully every store keeps enough of these on their shelves so that we'll have a good, however long these are in print, that we'll have a good steady increase in the number of people interested in Magic and now having a way of getting into it. So I think not only with Magic increasing and the other card games increasing, and things going steady for Warhammer, and maybe board games picking up and HeroClix picking up, hopefully, that Magic's already steady growth maybe has a leg up. And then, so let's say if it was increasing by 5% quarter over quarter, now it's 8% quarter over quarter. I don't know. I'm just making those numbers up. I'm just saying that hopefully this foundation stuff does that. And that instead of getting a bubble like we did in 2020, where everything, I don't know which it was actually, what started the bubble probably was cryptocurrency, although cryptocurrency is its own thing, and it wasn't really a bubble. It's a thing that just, cryptocurrency always does what cryptocurrency does, and it's on a 4-year cycle, so I don't know if I can consider, unless the whole thing is a bubble, but I doubt it. And then everything sort of derives from people having gains that they've locked in from cryptocurrency, and then they start spending it on things like comic books and video games and coins and Magic the Gathering and Warhammer and the hobbies that they like. And that becomes a bubble because people see the massive increase in the massive demand, and they think that that's sustainable, but it's only based on, people having extra money sitting around, and that dries up at some point in time, and or they move on to other things. So hopefully we don't hit a bubble this time. But it's kind of hard to avoid it with these things. So just be careful. Don't go overpaying for things. Like, you know, if you want Pokemon at $200 a box because you want and you like it and you're collecting it and you enjoy opening the packs and you have that money set aside, but don't go expecting that you're gonna be able to flip that. Maybe over time you'll be able to sell that sealed product, and probably over time, but we're talking about years. So don't, basically just stop thinking in short-term ways. Think about your hobby, think about what you like, think about what you enjoy about the game and enjoy that part of it, and don't try this investment flipping strategy, like, you know, because you're never going to call the bottom or the top or whatever, and you're going to get left holding the bags if you're just thinking short term. So if you can afford to be left holding the bags at the end of it, and you can wait with those bags for 3 to 5 years, you can recover that money probably. But if you can't, if you're just doing this and you're barely scratching by doing this, don't do it. It's not worth just barely scratching by to do it. That's my advice, and that's sort of the market update for where we're at with Magic, and Pokemon especially being in an upturn. And the set in January, I mean, it could turn even to be the same as Surge and Sparks or even more excessive, and I didn't really up the quantity, like the amount total that I pay for every order, so... But it's January, and I don't know. I know that in January or February, those sets for Magic often don't do quite well. I don't know about Pokemon because I've only been in it for a year and a half for Pokemon. So hopefully, you know, I guess it's okay to underorder. I mean, I just miss out on a bunch of sales, and then I don't have Pokemon on the shelf for my locals. So those are the downsides of underordering. But the upside is, you don't get stuck holding anything. The downside for over ordering is way worse, and the upside is not that much. So maybe it's a good decision, and maybe the set after the January set is the one I'll go heavy in. I don't know, and I don't really know what the rest of the year has to bring. There's no real big sets coming out except for a Lorcana set next week apparently. And there's a Dungeons & Dragons book, which, oh yeah, reminds me. So I should probably review the Dungeon Master's Guide in another video. But that's it for this market update from Brackenberries. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.